Ibrahim Anhamidu for the background report. Now joining us in the studio is Dr. Umar Bindir, former Secretary to Adamawa State Government. He's a regular on this program, and we'll learn and have an insight into his thoughts on this topic this morning.
It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you join us. And we also have seated here in the studio another regular, Ezenwa Wago, Chairman Partners for Electoral Reforms. You're welcome to program.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you.
Yeah, while we await the governor of Niger State, Umar Bago, to join us via Zoom, maybe we'll kickstart our conversation this morning. Ezewa, you were here just like about 2 days ago.
Yes.
Okay. We're still talking about governance. No, 2 days ago we were talking about this issue of parliamentary system of government and all that.
Yes.
But it's all boils down to governance, good governance, and that is the bone of contention right now. A lot of people believe that governance at the state, especially at the local government levels, is practically ineffective, non-existent right now. What do you think is the situation of governance at the sub-nationals?
Well, thank you. I think that the states, if you talk about governance at the states, it's tokenistic. That's the best way I can describe it. Because
what do you call it?
Tokenism.
Okay. Tokenism.
And what I mean by that is simply that there is somebody who doles out handouts. His name is called governor. You know, his work is to just give out handouts. He appropriates practically all the structures of governance, and in most cases personifies them. I hardly can on my finger count the number of states where the leadership recruitment process into the local government is democratic. And that is where the people learn democracy. That is this whole democracy thing, whether it is elections, voting,
it starts from the grassroots.
It starts from the grassroots. But what do we have in every state where they purport to even have the local government election? They don't even have the magnanimity to concede even one position. In many cases, they take 100%. I remember a state where we had gone to pitch situation room for local government election, and we were excited. We were running around, and then after the election, the chairman of the State Independent Electoral Commission just had a press conference and said, "Hey, this political party won everything. If you want the details, come to my office later."
Okay.
It was amazing. So I'm talking about local government elections. So where you have a complete ambush of that particular structure, then you can't be talking, in my own view, about governance, because it has to come from the people. People have to learn. And then what other structure? You have, I don't know that state in Nigeria where you have a truly independent state assembly, state legislature, where the legislature can look up to the governor and say, we are not going to approve this because it does not follow so and so. If you do that, the speaker will be removed the next day. If it's not removed, the mover of that motion will be suspended from the state assembly. And indeed, even the opposition is what is so-called opposition is. So the judiciary, so when I talk about personalization of power, the absolutization of power in the states makes it difficult for you to really discuss governance in the sense in which I am hoping that that's what you want to talk about. Whether it's the budget system, we have seen places in this country where the governor takes a budget and there was nobody talks about it, no debate, so they just hit it, bam, and said it's passed. And it's crazy, it's amazing. But you know what is worrying for me, which is the biggest part, is that the complete absence of citizen oversight. I was discussing with Doctor when we were chatting out there. I said, look, go into any state, listen on radio. The 90% of the conversation is about President Tinubu. in every state. 10% is devoted to where the governor of the state went to, not what has been happening
in the state.
So the structures, both civic structures, civic groups, civic organizations in the state are also in a state of anesthesia. So it's a huge challenge. So if it's governance we want to talk about, we want to then talk about the structures of governance, how effectively are they working, so there is a process that goes on, all of those things goes on, but whether it's the chairman of the Nigerian Labour Congress, NUJ, everybody sits around, it's almost about worship. There is deification, there is even deification of power in that sense, that you don't even see in the federal, in the way you see it. You can't even do opposition in that state. Even what they call constructive criticism is outlawed.
Okay.
That's quite an opening statement this morning. You've touched on so many things, being a state of anesthesia. That means they are still on the operating table and waiting to wake up. That is really, really a scary situation here in this country. And achieving good governance in the subnationals is crucial to the development and the prosperity of the country, because the center cannot hold if the subnational is shaky. Why is it we can't get it right all the time? Every time we come here, we talk about governance as subnational. It's the same song. It's like a sing song, and do they listen? Do they watch? Will they ever find ways to stabilize the system in the subnationals? Because 70% of the population in Nigeria is in the subnationals. How can we get it right?
Well, thank you very much. This is a very, very hot and dicey topic to discuss, because we're talking about our country. We're segmenting the country into 36 tiny little bits and the FCT, and then trying to see how the engine works. See, I want to start by defining a developing country. What is a developing country? A developing country is a country that has perfected the art of doing things wrongly. Because once you start doing things rightly, you will also start emerging as a good country, and then you become developed. And our country has always been a developing country from the beginning to date. Therefore, somehow we have not decided to review.
No, are you saying from the beginning? That's from 1960? Is that
Once you are a developing country, it doesn't matter, take it to 1900 if you want. Once you are tagged a developing country, it means so many things are not going well. And the reason why things don't go well is because either you are deliberately not doing them well, or you don't know what to do, but you are doing the wrong things. Once you start panel beating what you do correctly, you will also start seeing benefits of that rightness, and that is development. So I break good governance on that platform into three things. What is good governance? Governance traditionally is to ensure that your people in that particular locality or area or state or whatever, their quality of life develops. That is really the whole aspect of governance.
Okay.
And at three levels. The first level is that as the driver of the good governance, you must make sure that poverty, absolute poverty, is very low. People must drink clean water so that they don't face waterborne diseases. They must have good sanitation, because we are people who are chopping our bitter leaf, we eat by hand, we sit and talk together. Therefore, your sanitation must be good, otherwise you are just eating disease. You must be able to eat well, so your food supply must be good. You must be able to, children must go to school. There's nothing like you say, oh, the enrollment rate in my state is 60%. What happened to the 40%? That is not a very good. So these basic necessities are the first level for good governance. And you as the driver must know that. You must know when you are coming in and when you are going out, what is this? At the second level, you must make sure that you ginger the energy of that system to make sure that your people live peacefully, united, and active. Therefore, they must have skills, so that they use that skills to gainfully do things. If they are farming, they should farm well. If they are welding, they should weld well. If they are whatever. So you must ginger this middle class to be very vibrant. They are selling bitter leaf. They are doing pomo. They are doing mama put. Everybody is busy doing one thing on the basis of know-how. And at the third level, good governance is that you must make sure that these things continue to get better, and they will not get better without good institutions. So you have to develop institutions to make sure that even if you are dead, even if there is no leader, that middle class is maintained and is getting better. Poverty does not rise again, is getting lower and lower. So this is the art of governance, and you are given the responsibility to do that. So the first challenge is that knowing these three levels. The leader must know this, must constantly not lose focus of these targets. He must be monitoring this, and this is a skill. This is know-how. You know, you cannot do these things, like Oga is saying, if you are not budgeting well. You cannot budget well if you don't have data. You cannot have data if you are not conscious of what is happening. This demands technical competence and fear of God and commitment and patriotism to be able to see. That is why where you have good systems and good governance, the leader is always getting older and older and older, graying and so on and so forth. But where you have the whole thing is opposite, you see the leader getting better and better and better because you're not thinking, you're not getting bothered, you're not seeing your own dashboard to say, oh my God, and so on and so forth. So then how do you get these leaders to know this so that they can be able to do that? That brings you to the electoral process. That is the only platform we have. So if that is wrong, you are going to get the wrong person who is not prepared, who will not track these things, and then who will not do them. And at the end of the day, you continue just collapsing. It's a gradual. So now, as Oga said, at the state level, I was secretary to the government. I went there as a technocrat. By the time I left, I became a polytechnic. I bit of politics with my technocrat, garnished a little bit. But I learned very well. Some people were saying, Dr. Bindi, you will not survive here. But I'm a scientist. A scientist likes problems. He wants to be in a laboratory to be trying to solve things. And I enjoyed it. I saw everything. I can write a book on how Nigeria can never make it if, and I will stop with a ... So these are the initial things I have to say on the energy of good governance as a target, how you do that, and who actually helps you to get there.
Dr. Bindi, you have raised three major issues right now. The issue of a reduction of poverty, the issue of security, and the third one, the issue of institution, building institution. Now, you were secretary to the government, which means that you operated at the highest level of governance in the state. Now, tell us your experience, because like he raised several issues, the issue of tokenization, separation of powers, and opposition, does not exist and all that. So what exactly do you think, from your experience, is the major challenge that we are facing at the sub-nationals?
Well, when I went there,
from your own experience.
I had never participated in any political process.
Yes.
Some people just came and say, you're a technical person, you are a civil servant, you are an academic, you can help, in quote, help to actually push us. So I went there. I was a professor in the university. I became a civil servant at the highest level. I became a public servant. I was DG. So to a certain extent, I'm prepared to face it. The only thing missing was that I was not an active politician. So when I went there, what I realized, the first experience was that there was no document to guide you on what to do for the next 4 years. So I sat with His Excellency, we need a roadmap. There's no way we can just be doing anything. We have to budget, we have to spend money, we have to prioritize things, so we need a plan. The first reaction I got from the team surrounding him is that, you see, that is the problem with you Boko people and the Makaranta people and then the grammar people. You are always asking, what document? We know what to do. That's the first experience. I can tell you, if you go around the 36 states plus FCT and you ask for a document showcasing the roadmap of that tiny little area called a state, so that systematically you know your challenges in water, what do you do in the next 4 years, systematically. Your challenges in out-of-school children, what do you do? Your challenges in education, what do you do? Your challenges in security, I can bet you, I don't know the number, but you're not going to get many documents of that. And it is these documents, when you collapse them, it should be the National Development Plan. You see, this is not happening. 2, when now you go out of your way and you say, well, I have to survive as a technocrat, therefore I have to do these things. So I said to the governor that, sir, it is very, very important for you to coordinate. Elections is over now. It is governance now. So you are the governor, you have resources at the state level. The 3 senators we sent to Abuja, they have access to policy and regulations and legislature, and also they have their projects. 3, you have 8 members of House of Rep in Abuja. They can also help you. And so I listed all this. So I said, we need all these people to put their hands on the table. So I designed an Adamawa State round table for unity, development, and progress. So I said, you will be the chair. Call all these people. Don't worry about their different parties and so on and so forth. And then call the traditional leaders, the first class, they are 8. And let us discuss our state so that everybody will see the fairness. Then I got another shocker. The political class said, you see, why should we work with this man? Because he's a different part. Why should we? So that art of synergy, again, does not exist. I can bet you again, in all the 36 states and the FCT, hardly will you get a state whereby you've decided to institutionalize, which is the institutions I was talking to, that after every 6 months or every year, we are going to sit around, irrespective of our political party, and then pour in our intended contributions, what we have contributed, and see what has happened, so that we can take a document to say, yes, we are making progress, or we are not making progress. You know, again, the politics swallows this. You're constantly fighting. That politics has finished, and governance does not exist in Nigeria. Politics is constant. You're constantly fighting until, you are swallowed, and so on and so forth. So there are many, many experiences I've got. There are good experiences, there are bad experiences, things like the coordination. I was a civil servant here, and I saw how even permanent secretaries are promoted. Again, very, very political. I said, no, let us have a structure. So I used to have, because I was secretary to the government, a service-wide meeting of all the commissioners, because I can call them, and all the permanent secretaries in one room, and I chair it. And I'll say, the commissioner and you, it doesn't matter if you hate yourselves. Adamawa is your thing. You have to love yourself.
Adamawa first.
Yes. Therefore, so I try my best to make sure that they work together. I also institutionalize that in the state. I call all the federal institutions. Agriculture has an office. SMEDAN has an office. NDE has an office. All these institutions. Normally, the state doesn't care about it. They're in the federal secretariat. I say, no, they are working in this state. I need their data. I need what they're doing. So again, I call them again, the federal, the state synergy, and I chair that, and we talk. So when you ask the commissioner for water resources, he should be able to tell you every single borehole constructed by the state, constructed by OGA in that area, constructed by the federal government, so that you know your water supply situation. But in most cases, this does not happen. Everybody is doing their own straight line, and the challenge.
So Dr. Bende, it's really a very frustrating experience for you. At that stage, we'll come back to you. While we still await the governor of Niger State to join us, we'll continue in our conversation. And let me come back to you, Ezenwa. The doctor raised some vital issues, that our electoral system, is faulty. That's what he's saying. And also said that right from the genesis of this nation, we have always been developing, and that is a big challenge. Would you agree with that? Because I know that in the 60s, the mentality, the orientation of our leaders is quite different from what we have right now. If you compare the leadership in the 60s to what we have now, it's different, because they were like, the orientation was like the servant leader. But but what we have now is like total different. Now, what would you say actually is the problem? You talked about no opposition again in most of the states governance, because the opposition is consumed the moment the government takes over, and also the local governments, they are non-existent. So where do we go from here?
So, who am I to disagree with a professor? But I broadly will share some of the sentiments that he expressed. But let's be clear. You see, if you go to the civil service, the challenge, sir, has not been the absence of roadmaps. In fact, there are governors who invest hugely in getting consultants to do these things that we are talking about, provide them with roadmaps, charts, all kinds of things. So it is also part of the challenge. The continued feeling that you do not have the quality that you need in your civil service. Most of the time it exists. Is that if you like, that ambush by the political class completely, that is not patriotic, that is not thinking about the state, that thinks more about the next election. So the guy in the House of Rep wants to be governor. As soon as he finishes his tenure in the House of Rep, his thinking is how to be governor. The governor is suspicious of him because he knows that he's targeting his job. The one in the governor himself is thinking that when he finishes, he will go to Senate. So he wants to upstage the guy who thinks that the Senate is his permanent domain. That he has to be there in America, senator stay for 40 years. Now he has a governor who is already waiting to finish and get. So that's why I said I broadly agree with Doctor that there is a constant challenge in terms of politics. So going back to your question as to what the challenge is, your electoral process has a problem. That's not completely true, sir.
Okay.
Look at the parties. The political parties conduct what you call primary election. Why is it called primary election? It means that what INEC conducts is secondary election. So the most important election should be what? The primary election. What the political parties present to INEC, the quality of people that the political parties present to the INEC is what INEC presents to the public. So we've been told not to be interested. That is in the internal affairs of the political parties. We shouldn't be bothered about how they do their things. Look at Edo State. Look at this drama of simply selecting in less than 162 wards or thereabouts to select a governor. The political parties have had issue of shame. And there is no whimper from anywhere. Nigeria is calm. We are not interested in how a political party can have 2-3 congresses and produce different candidates. It was not a problem for us. I hardly know any station that discussed the primaries of Edo State or anything. You understand? So if your political class is a political class that is not interested in what Doctor was talking about, development, that is not thinking about building a country, then you have a huge challenge. So when you say your electoral process, the electoral process is not Beaver. That's not the electoral process. There is no Beaver has no problem. IREV has no problem. If that is your definition of your electoral process, it has no problem. It has challenge with the nature of your political class. And at the state level, that is where I was talking about. That Ogademola, tell me that state where local government election holds in the true sense of elections. The investment we make in other elections, do we make that same level of investment in local government elections? Those donors who, international observers who run helter skelter in Nigeria when we are having an election, do they come here when there is any local government election? Do they care?
They don't exist.
We, the CSO, how many of us are interested in observing local government election? We see our states write results without people voting. 99% voter turnout in local government. We don't say anything about it. So where will you get that human being? So the guy who was appointed sole administrator, in quote, of a local government, when he finishes his 2 term, number one, he does not even live in the local government where he's supposed to be chairman. He doesn't stay there. He's a visitor to the local government.
Does he even stay in the States?
No, oftentimes now everybody stays in Abuja. So he stays, when he's around, he stays in the capital. Tuesday, he goes to the state. On Thursday, he leaves. Then the traditional institution that is actually supposed to be a very respectable, check on those kind of misbehavior, if you like, of the politicians, has been desecrated by also politicizing it to the extent that it is no longer capable of wielding that kind of influence that is supposed to put that kind of check. You have tried. A governor wakes up and says he has removed the traditional ruler just because the traditional ruler received an opposition figure in his palace. He suspends him.
Or removes him.
Removes him. With nothing. We won't say anything. We are okay. We are fine.
Why do you think that we are like that? Just docile? Like,
because I said that we are afraid of what is close. What is close, we are always afraid of it. We are afraid of what is close, and we like to fight what is far because it can't do us anything. The issue. So
that's why they fight the federal.
Oh, so you can. If a radio station insults the federal,
it gets away with it.
There is no NBC. NBC does not care in those states whether you are insulted. Once you say "cha" to the governor,
yes,
there's a clamp down on you immediately. So the regulatory institutions are weak against the strong, and they are strong against the weak. So we have that challenge. We need to reorganize in the way. So coming to doctor, it's not about those things you do. They just humor you. They humor you by saying, "No, you are blowing grammar." Because they also invest in the grammar. The only reason why they won't take your own is that they will not pay you adequately for your. So they prefer to use it also as procurement. When there is procurement, then there is corruption.
Yes, corruption.
So it's better to get a consultant, and that consultant may be just one Singaporean who just finished university with his white hair. He comes, does one child, do drama, and he gets out of the state. Then he helps to take away
your resources.
So my sense is that the states needs to become more responsible. I was making the argument. I said, when we were in the national conference, people were coming to say states, 2014 national conference, they wanted states created. And then that leads me to the argument about state creation. Why do people want states created? No, what were the reasons? One of the most important things they put forward is that they are viable. A lot of people don't know that the states give you a plan as to their viability. So Zamfara will say, we have Arabian gum. And they will tell you how much Arabian gum is in the international market and the quantum of Arabian gum that is available in Zamfara. As soon as you create that state, they forget the Arabian gum. Nasarawa will tell you, we have Columbite, we have blah blah, we have what. The truth is that those things are there. Yeah. Then they will corner Indians to go and privately mine those things. Chinese to go and mine those things. And then Nasarawa will come to Abuja regularly to collect allocation. And then those allocations are not even shared, because they appropriate both that of the local government and everything. And that is why anytime there is this allocation, your dollar will rise. Yes. Because the guys just come, take that in, change it to dollar, and then you are in trouble. So we are not dealing with the real issues that confront us in terms of governance. We are papering, and we are constantly doing that drama about conversations about local governance. People say, okay, give the independent give elections to INEC to conduct, so that they can have. No, we are saying unbundle INEC, give it more, liberty to face the work that it's doing. So what we need to do is to invest in the SECs. We need to begin to have structures that can truly organize independent local government elections. And the way to do that is to ensure that the appointment into those SECs are not just also the same way we are crying that the president should not appoint INEC and the national commissioners. We should also take the power to appoint the SECs away from the emperors in the states. And for me, that is important. So we can grow democracy from and in the program we are talking, my brother Honorable Chinda was talking about homegrown. So as I left the studio that day, I said everything we do in Nigeria is homegrown. There is nothing that we do that is imported. Whether it is presidential system of government, our own is homegrown. Local government election, homegrown. Because we are the only one that design our own kind of election, that it does not exist in any other place except in Nigeria. Our driving license is homegrown. How everything about us is homegrown. Because if we do what other people did, what Doctor was talking about was a law and order regime. And that is what is lacking in Nigeria. There is no, in the absence of law and order regime in the states is where you have all these issues. Go to the places you call advanced countries. The difference between us and them is law and order, nothing more.
Indeed,
nothing more.
Reason why I can listen to you on and on as you bring out issues, pertaining this topic we're discussing today. And what scares me more is Nigerians not being interested in anything that happens, as if whatever it is, they don't want us there, so we don't want to do anything. And it's a scary situation when people do not participate in any process in this country and do not question authority. It is a scary situation for any country, because
nobody stops anybody.
Yes, nobody stops anybody, but we are not interested.
Water is drilled.
Yes.
There is a borehole that is drilled in your community. The only day you drink water is the day of the commissioning.
Yes.
Because right in the presence of everybody, a tanker will be brought to put water
in the tank. And then there's a ceremony. In that ceremony, the woman leader, youth, everybody is there. When the tap is opened, water is drunk. When they leave, water. There is nothing that says you cannot say, look, I don't care who you gave the contract to drill this borehole, just give us water. That's your anti-corruption fight. We don't care how much you paid, but if water runs, then it's fine. So who are you going to offend by that? By saying give us water, because you came here. Every road, and it's on camera.
Every road contract that is given, many times doctor can bear witness. The contractor's name is put on the billboard. Is that also duration 2 years? Blah blah blah, the company, address, everything. After 2 years, those who ply that road, those who live in that community, who benefit from that road, that the road is abandoned, keep quiet. they don't go and call that contractor and say, Mr. Contractor, on your billboard, you said 2 years.
But most times, those contractors don't even live in that vicinity where they can be challenged.
They come from Abuja.
Yes, because
let me end so that I don't look like I dominate. There's a community in Akwa Ibom State,
yes,
where a contractor was given to do drainages and solar and do the road. He abandoned it. The community mobilized, went to Uyo, got the specification. After a lot of trips to Uyo, they were able to get the specification of that job. They got the contractor back.
He had to come and finish
yes,
the
what
job.
you did, this is the specification. There is somebody, a young lady in Enugu, who went to the budget and found out that what was supposed to be in her community is a hospital, not a renovation.
Okay, Ezenwa, we'll come to you on that. And let's bring in Dr. Bindu into this conversation. You've listened. You've been part of the system. You still are, actually. And would we say that citizen participation in governance is not working? Or, like you said, people are not interested? Are people now awakening to their responsibilities as citizens, just like you said in Akwa Ibom and Enugu? What about the rest of the country? This I don't care attitude to issues pertaining governance, you know. When people want to contest election, they come with a manifesto. They say they have a roadmap on how to develop the place, take it out of poverty, you know, make sure the citizens' well-being is being considered. When after election, the manifesto and the roadmap disappears. So what should the citizens do in this aspect? Do we need a reawakening of our responsibility? Because we are also responsible for what happens.
Well, you see, there are two dangerous cycles that make a bigger cycle of problems for Nigeria. And when you do use those two cycles, you see everything very, very clearly. The biggest and the most dangerous cycle for Nigeria is poverty. Poverty is very, very high in this country. And I can tell you, sorry to digress, in Islam there is, when you start anything, you say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitan. That is, may God forsake the devil, so that you can, but exactly after that, you also say, A'udhu billahi minal faqr. May God forsake poverty. So poverty and the devil are like the same. And when you have the devil on top of your neck, there's everything doctor is saying here is perfect. You will not think correctly, you will not do correctly, you will not fear God, but you will go to the church and mosque, you will dress very nice, but you are terrible, and so on and so forth. You will hunt for leadership with money that can develop the whole system, to just sit on top of it, and you don't know why actually you haven't, and you get your reasons later. So poverty can quench all these intentions and take your independence away from you. And you are looking for that tiny thing. That is why at the state level, the governor is actually a little God. He cannot make mistake at the, I mean, we are just talking about the governor of Kogi State. See when he was governor. When he goes out of that, the whole Lokoja is saying white lion, and he is very, very relaxed. The day is only the day he left that now they are calling him devil and thief and so on and so forth. Why? That poverty index moves people to feel like there's something around the corner for you, and you start misbehaving. The second, for our country specifically, is insecurity. Insecurity is again so high. It does not know. Initially, people, when you say insecurity, they think it's Boko Haram. Now you see that people are everywhere. And our insecurity takes you to the maximum level of killing. It's not just stealing your TV and leaving you alive, or stealing your car. No. All the ingredients, and these two are constantly rotating and making the cycle of challenges bigger and bigger and bigger. Poverty creates insecurity. Insecurity creates poverty, and it's getting bigger and bigger. So, now, these are not totally undismountable. There are good examples in this country where things are working, but in tiny, tiny spots. And the reason why some of them are working is that the leader relaxes, and he wants to partner, he wants to synergize, he wants to cooperate, he wants to learn, and he also teaches. And he gives everybody a chance to contribute at least. Yes, the draconian effect can come here and there, but it's less. And so, But in most cases, this is not happening. Now, in countries where this thing seems to be not quite visible, is that certain areas participate well and certain areas don't participate well. What do I mean? You see, the academia are supposed to be the factories that are producing the highly skilled and well-educated, massive manpower to power the country like that. And we have like 270 universities in this country. If you look at the Orosanye report, there are over 600 and something agencies of government, of which maybe more than 300 are actually research institutions. Then you ask yourself, with all that quantum that is supposed to produce the people, produce the energy to move our country forward, how come that every time you see a road being constructed, you will see a foreigner? When our leaders are commissioning it, whether it is communication, whether it is water, whether it is road, whether it is railway, whether it is aviation, everything, you will see at the commissioning level 1 or 2 foreign people, and that is where the energy of implementation is. Then you tend to wonder what is happening to this cluster. Something has to happen to make sure that you take over. You will not see this in Malaysia. You will always see Malaysians doing Malaysian technology-based projects. You will not see, even in Ghana, they are beginning to narrow it down. We need to do that too. For us to do that, we have to reflect and see our technical energy. Where are they? Are they being utilized? If you look at, say, Adamawa State, that small state has only 3 to 4 million people. It has a federal university. It has a state university. It has a private university. It has the same number of polytechnics, same number of colleges of education, hundreds of these bits and pieces specialized. But when you go and ask the content coming out of those institutions in government, you probably will find that it is very, very little. You get what I mean? So this needs to happen. 3 is that we are not good users of data. Data is what guides you to plan. Data is what makes you to reflect. But our people fear data. They think it is investigative. They think, oh, if we have everything documented about all our contracts, all the money, who, like he is saying, corruption, who are the exactly, that you will trace and people will now look at it. The doctor has gotten a contract. He has been paid 20 billion and he has run away. And this phobia of data makes people don't like document. I face that. When I like data, I like information, I like documentation, I like booklets everywhere, so that you don't hide. But because instead of instead of utilizing that for development, we run away from. So again, we need to change that. 4th, I think we have to wake up and be able to say that competence matter.
That is actually the question I want to ask you, because when Ezewa was speaking earlier, he said it is always very difficult to get the competent hands to compete, to contest in an election, because this election that the electoral bodies present to us at the general elections are usually the ones that are done at the primary level, which is the political parties. So how do we change the narrative? How do we begin to get the competent hands right from the primary election now? Because that is the major challenge. The moment we are able to solve that major challenge, then we can now begin to see a clearer picture of where we are going. Then this issue of poverty can be resolved. The issue of institution can be, the issue of data that you talked about can also be checked. And also there will be opposition, good opposition. There will be, what is it called now? People will begin to come alive. The citizens also will play their own role. There will be transparency and accountability. So how do we tackle that challenge of getting credible hands from the primary level?
I think we have to set standards. We don't have standards now. In fact, before primary elections, there's another election that is very, very critical.
Okay.
We call it the congresses. The congresses are within the party to select their ESCOs. And traditionally, before the last law that came, that's why so many of the National Assembly or State Assembly people are different. There's so many new hands came in because the law came after the congresses, and the congresses is what actually gives you the template of the primaries. Congresses is when you select the ESCO. So for APC, for example, the state has 36 members of the ESCO. At the local government, they have 27. At the ward level, so 3 levels. It is these people who actually come together as the delegates to select the people at the primaries. So if you struggle to ensure that your own is in the ESCO, then you can be able to dictate. I can tell you, we have to raise the standards to say that you cannot be a member of ESCO if you are not this and that and that and that. That is what the Chinese call the technocracy. You cannot just pop out and become local government chairman if you have never led, you've never contributed, you've never demonstrated that you are clean, you've never, and all of a sudden you just pop out, you don't know anything because somebody says, sit here. That need to change. We need to change at the congresses level so that the parties start maturing. Then the primaries will gradually get better because, again, said that you cannot be elected to contest for a position of senator if you are not that and that and that and that. Education will come in, moral the standards must come, age must come in, and so on and so forth. You set that standard. By the time you get to the general elections, then now the arguments, the standard again will have to, you must bring the template that you are going to bring the table like we started discussing. If you don't know what to do to ensure that poverty comes down, to ensure that you create the middle class, to create institutions, what are you doing in leadership? So you must, these indices must be measurable so that you can be able to see that. But the way we are now is that if right now I ask Jumai now, I say, Juma, you are a Nigerian, who is your president? She might say, President Bola Tinubu, tick. Who is your vice president? Oh, my vice president is my brother, Shetima, tick. As you go down, you ask her, who is your senator? She might think a little bit. She may get it wrong. But when you go down, who is your member House of Reps? She may not get that. Go down, who is your governor? She may get that. Who is your deputy governor? She may stutter a little bit. Who is your local government chairman? She will say, Dr. Bindi, why are you pestering my life like this? Who is your vice chairman, local government? Who is your ward councillor? But these leaders, we elect them up to the ward level. So again, consciousness, political consciousness must be able to radiate in all of us so that if you ask doctor, who are your leaders, even if he doesn't know, he can be able to open his phone and Google a particular database and he will see everything, including his traditional leaders. Who is your first class emir? Who is your own district head? Who is your village head? Who is your ward? You must know all this. But these things, when we, like he said, we actually isolate ourselves and we think this is not part of our life and we're expecting the best out of it, has to change and has to change very, very gradually.
Indeed, Dr. Bindi, we have to change our perspective in life, especially in the political crisis. Now we'll take a break. When we return, the conversation continues. You're welcome back, and we're still discussing governance at the sub-national level in the country, and our guests have been bringing out issues and touching on some pertinent, bringing out some pertinent questions, pertaining governance at the state level. As in why I'm going to bring you in here. When Nigeria adopted the American system of government, they took a little part of it. And, because we know in America, states generate their revenue. They don't rush to Washington every month to collect money because Washington is the center, but the state controls what happens there. And the midterm elections that I always talk, if only we can have it in this country, is part of the presidential system. But corruption in Nigeria sort of eroded all this perspective of the presidential system of government, and it is the big elephant in the room. How can we have a total reawakening of Nigerians to their responsibility that says we need to question, we need to ask questions, we need to investigate whatever happens in governance, like they do in America. If you are not performing by the midterm election, you are gone. Do you think we have something like that in this country?
We are just going to extend vote buying. We'll now periodize it. So after the one that finished in general, you create another opportunity for voter inducement and all that. I think we should, our challenge is not as big as we create it. We can reduce those issues by very simple issue of citizen awakening and consciousness. And it doesn't have to start, it can start in a small space. So you go to a restaurant, you are served food and it's cold, and then you say, please can you warm this food? And then somebody sitting by the side says, Oga, manage it. That capacity to insist is perhaps worrying for us. We don't like people who insist. Because there is a shortcut mentality. So you live in an estate, you don't pay security fee. They say there are security fees to maintain security where you don't pay. People, you don't pay. You are not interested. So we can start from those areas. What is your contribution to your community, to the different communities that you belong to? What contribution are you making there? How interested are you? The bulb that gives light outside your house, it will be dead for 1 year. Because it gives light to other people, you can't change it. These are elementary issues, but there are things that are important in a galvanizing responsibility.
Lay foundation.
Yes, and that consciousness. So until we are able to deal with the small things, the big things will be spiritual. They will remain spiritual. The small things are those little things we can engage. The policeman stops you. Your papers are correct. And then he's delaying you. And then you tell him you are in a hurry. Once you say you are in a hurry, then he understands that delaying you will mean you have to part with something. So why are you in a hurry? Just stay there and wait for him to finish it. We are quick. I'm just bringing these mundane, issues as to how we can galvanize citizen consciousness. But beyond all of that, elections matter. Elections matter. They matter a lot. And I was excited, profoundly excited, when Doctor talked about congresses. The things, because these are the places, so the ambush of those congresses is where the challenge comes. The absence of contestation and how contestation annoys us. Any form of contestation, we like to be given. We gave him the ticket. We made him chairman. We made him, not that he contested. So contests are the things, we are so afraid of any form of contest. We must return contestation in our elections, because that's the big issue. And it started when former leaders ambushed the party structures and personalized them. When they took party meetings to their government houses, from that period, they started appointments rather than contests. So the congresses Doctor talked about will come. The list will be taken to the governor or the president. The president would create his own list, not from the original list. So people are waiting, and then they suddenly see a new list. And then, what then is contestation? They are no longer...
And they must follow that list.
People must also make contribution. Party dues needs to be paid. Money has to come from the dues that you pay, even if it is 100 naira. Because that is your stakeholdership. That is raising your stakeholdership. To say, I commit to this thing. So, if you go for party meetings, they transported you there, they gave you food, they gave you money, somebody gave you, somebody does all that for you. You are not a member of that party. You are a hired gun. You are hired to come and do something because you are not a stakeholder. You didn't contribute anything. And that was what Doctor talks about. What is the contribution? What are we doing? So if we begin to invest in the things that matter to us, and one of the most important things that should matter to us is politics. People say, oh, it doesn't matter. And I was saying somewhere, I said the cost of gari, the cost of elubo, the cost of meet is all political. Everything is political. So one government policy pushes out kanda from your stable. One government policy says you can't eat kanda again, that it is that kwomo, that is leather, that is causing something. That government policy has wiped out. So if you are not interested, that's who does the policy. So we need to invest in it. We need to be conscious and be interested. Countries, in quote, small countries like Ghana, if a taxi driver takes you from the airport and you are going somewhere, and you engage that taxi driver, the level of political consciousness that you see, it will amaze you in terms of the understanding of the real issues, the politics of the place. Go to Dakar, they are having an election in a few days' time. You will be shocked at the level of political consciousness that the citizens exhibit. Our own here is periodic. It's as periodic as it comes. During the election, you would think Nigeria will cease to exist. You will think it will cease to exist because everything is galvanized around. But as soon as election is over, cronyism, patronage, everybody starts juggling for positions. 1 year after, you will see the ascendancy of the noise again. When people can't get what they probably had wanted, they now not reached. Yes. Then you see a new. So within the next 2 years, we stop governance again. We pitch into election. So by 2024, you start talking about who will come back, who is not going to come back, second termism, and the rest of them. So our problem is really known and clear, but it's that lack of determination to confront it from the top. And it can come from the leadership. And when I mean the leadership, for instance, the issues that are bothering us, and that's what Doctor was talking about, you need to have leaders with force of personal example. And I think President Tinubu is doing there is some spark that one is seeing. I just wish she's able to keep it. 3 months foreign. Doctor was asking me whether it will have impact. I say it will add up. Even if it is 1 naira, it adds up. Let's start from there. That you just can't do all this gallivanting that goes on. Okay, you are doing. You are Ministry of Education. You are going to Dubai to go and do training, and Doctor was talking about the resources that is available, the manpower that is available. So all of those things, the universities needs to be depoliticized. For it to play the role Doctor was talking about, it has to be depoliticized. You cannot be vice chancellor of University of Ilorin if you are not from the Emirates. You cannot be vice chancellor of University of Nigeria Nsukka if you are not from Nsukka. You cannot be University of Maiduguri vice chancellor no. If you are not Kanuri.
In Maiduguri is different. We have people from Adama, we have people from
you are not in touch with what is going on.
Yes.
You are currently not in touch with what is going on
in
the university system. You don't know what's going on. It is getting worse. You can't be vice chancellor of University of Jos if you are not even the dominant tribe within Plateau State.
Even if you are not qualified.
Whether you are qualified or not, one of the things that makes the university is ideas. Is a university of ideas. So it is not about where you come from. You had the University of Ife, where the Ife people were putting fetish things on the ground to make their own vice chancellor of University of Ife. Was that what happened before? Did you know when who were the vice chancellors of University of Ibadan? Who were the vice chancellors of ABU? Today, if you are not even from Zaria and of a particular religion, you cannot even be vice chancellor of University of Ahmadu Bello University Zaria. Those are the things that are killing intellectualism and the ability to make that place a factory of ideas that can galvanize the kind of change that we're looking for. And we are not ready to confront it. That for me is the issue. So that small one about appointments, why do you have to politicize it?
Okay. Ezenwa, thank you so much. We are not ready to confront our challenges. And someone said that the excuses we make for our leaders or for ourselves today makes today easier, but tomorrow harder. But the discipline that we insist today makes today harder but tomorrow better. Now, we have all these institutions, and the problem actually is as a result of they are not strengthened, lack of funds, lack of capacity. Now, how do we begin to strengthen these institutions? It's not that we don't have these institutions like we have talked about, but how do we strengthen them? How do we get them funded? How do we begin to encourage or galvanize the people to begin to demand for the right leadership that we need in this country? How do we, go about sensitizing the populace to educate them about what political or governance is all about? Just like he mentioned, you go to Ghana, you engage a driver, a taxi driver, he can tell you up to the local government what is happening there. But here, nobody cares. Is it as a result of this issue of poverty? Because it's like our politicians are using poverty, insecurity as tools, to just hold the people down. So how do we begin to challenge such systems?
Well, I think these are, like my good brother said, certain very simplistic, common sense things can change this country beyond what you can think of. And I think the most challenging ministerial appointee in this government, by my standard, is the Minister of Digital Economy. The reason is information must be available. You must know what information you require. You must know that that information is available or not available, whether it is reliable, standardized, and so on and so forth. Look, number one, we always have the National Economic Council. Governors come here to meet with the Vice President as their chair. Why can't we standardize the structures of government at the federal and the state level? Why do we have Ministry of Women Affairs here, and then we have Ministry of, is it stomach, infrastructure, or whatever? Why? This is our country. And I think every sector has what they call a national council. The national council, the minister is the chair, and the minister is the image of the president. He is not elected. The president is the elected person. These ministers that you see constitutionally must come from it is the image of the president. So anywhere the minister is sitting is taking responsibility of the presidential energy. So number one, we need to standardize so that we can be able to talk to each other. And that standardization can just be done like this in one day. Okay. Two, the Minister of Digital Economy, yes, it's good to get the passport making with the interior correct and so on and so forth. But first, he must be bending backwards to make sure that Population Commission gets it right. He must be bending backward to make sure that every other aspect of government in terms of numbers are actually available and it is accessible. So if he's sitting in Abuja, he must know the strength of information and communication of Zamfara, the strength of information and communication of Borno State, the strength of information and communication of Bayelsa. He must know. Otherwise, the structure of the economy is wobbling if you're only talking of federal structures of statistics and so on and so forth, and you leave the states away. So again, it's synergy. Number three, when we have this data gathering, data analysis, data archiving, and so on and so forth, these are intellectual things. It would be nice to see, like he said, our universities, our professors, our own leaders in the polytechnics are directly engaged in implementing these things. Not to go and get a consultant from Dubai to come and say, oh, PricewaterhouseCoopers to come and do your management, blah, blah, blah. Why can't you say for once, in the next 5 years, we should be able to be doing 1, 2, 3 by ourselves? And you have the engines. So again, it's standardizing and synergy. Number four, we must make sure that the ingredients of partnership, assisting each other in terms of complementarity and so on and so forth, works for us. Why can't one of the economic councils that was met, and you remember when they challenged the social register of the National Social Investment Program. But you cannot believe it, that social register is totally a state thing. But the argument at the Economic Council was that it is a federal. Federal never generated data. I was there. It is the state register. It is hosted in the Ministry of Planning of that. And it is actually handled by civil servants in that state. But a governor of that state will come and say, I never knew about it. This synergy is not working. Somebody should have said, Haba. The thing is the state coordinating unit is in your state. It is manned by your staff. Your commissioner of planning is the head of the whole thing. How can you say that? You know? But we don't, like Oga said here, we allow it. And that distorted the whole thing. And I think that was the process that got the whole ministry into challenges. We have to go and verify it. You verify what already is existing. Is in the same way. You know? So, to me, these things can be addressed if we resolve to ensure that we like our country, we fear God, and we can be able to synergize together. The politics is important and the democratic process is important. I think that too. The leaders at the highest level, the president and the governor, must resolve to make sure that we must get these things right. And as I said, unless you put a standard to certain things, you will continue uprooting the tree to see if there are roots and then putting it back every time you come to. But there has to be standards. You cannot be a local government chairman if you are not this. You cannot be a senator if you are not this. You cannot be a House of Reps. So struggle, work hard. If it is schooling, go to school. If it is trying to run a business to get a bit of commercial experience, do something. If you are civil service or employment, you must be able to get that minimum. Gradually, we can get better. But if we continue like we're going now, every time particularly we change a government after 4 or 8 years, we change everything totally. We lose the institutional memory. In fact, we blame the past. And we spend 2 or 3 years blaming the past until our own comes. And then somebody else will come and blame us again. So that vicious cycle of waste of time, I think we have to crack it. And it is doable.
It's doable.
It's doable in our country. And we, like he said, we've started seeing signals from His Excellency the President challenging certain things. Don't travel. Yes, what I was asking him was, I just asked a rhetorical question. Do you think this is going to get better? But by now, immediately this policy is flung out. The Office of Statistics, the Planning Commission, the digital economy should in the next 1 week be able to say to Nigeria that by implementing this presidential directive, we will save this, because in the last 6 months, what we have done, this is the quantum of money, so that we don't just sit and say the president said and then nobody knows. This is what encourages the population to see that a policy has been introduced and is working. And then maybe 1 year down the line, or the 6 months or 3 months down the line, you can actually see.
Like what happened during the PTF era?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So, quantum of money that has been saved by cutting down on governance is
once you start doing that, maybe the state governments too will start gradually picking it up. But if you just leave the policy to float, and some people, Nigerians are very good at working so hard to oppose things. I call it negative development. Okay. And we just come up with a new way of destroying something that is good. But instantly, institutions that are existing should be able to come up to support the presidential pronouncement, to say that by doing this, this is what is going to happen. In fact, last time, no secret, last time we did 1, 2, 3, take a sample of the visit to Dubai, the visit to America, the hunger, and so on and so forth. Put a figure. In reality, the data is there. Yeah. Somebody paid it. And then you'll be able to, if we do that, this is what we're going to say.
Okay, and so what I wanted to, Dr. Reyes talked about one issue that Nigerians were quick to forget. An issue will prop up now, and before you know it, another issue comes up, and we just throw aside all those other issues, and we are quick to forget, and it's like a vicious circle of waste of time. Don't you think it's another ploy by people in governance to make sure that, we forget issues keep popping up, and Nigerians keep forgetting what they are supposed to do? How do we? How is it? Because
what they make us do is no longer important.
Yeah,
because we know that part of what politicians do ordinarily is always to see whether they can take advantage.
They set up.
Yeah, so since it is a certain thing that we know that that's what they do. It's the reverse side of what we're doing that becomes important. So my thesis has always been that why is it difficult for NUT, Nigerian Union of Teachers, to organize its own town hall and say the state of primary education in Nigeria, NUT in Zamfara, NUT in Imo State, NUT, to say, Mr. Governor, you've done 6 months, you've done 1 year, okay? The state of primary school is still like this. You invite him now, there is no election. The NUT organizing his own program invites him, and with data, like he said, can show clearly where we are, where children are sitting on the floor and learning.
Do you think the NUT
I'm just giving
muscle to be able to
it takes what the NUT has the muzzle to invite him to give him award.
Okay. Yeah, that's
no. If it has the muzzle to invite him to give him award, it has the muzzle to invite him to a town hall.
Okay.
If the Nigerian Medical Association, rather than you are not on strike now, you can say this is the state of health in the state. This is the state of health. Mr. Governor, you've done 1 year. These are the things that we expect you to do. The Nigerian Union of Journalists, rather than have a merit award, should be able to say, Mr. Governor, your communication about the things that you are doing is not optimal. It is not. I'm just saying these civic groups.
These are supposed to be. But because of the poverty,
there is no poverty. See, this is not poverty. The point is, there are many things we take for granted. Oh, hunger in the land. I agree. Let it not be hunger for shawarma, because if it is hunger for fufu, that's a different matter.
Yeah.
Okay, if you want to eat fufu, there is available 3 wraps of it you can get for 200. No matter how poor you are, you can get things. So leave that part. The poverty that we talk about and we use as excuse is also our big challenge. Okay, different awards are going on in the country. Newspaper, the Governor of the Year award, the Governor of the Kiniko award, all those awards. Those same people can have seminars. They can have lectures where they put those governors on. See, during election, if you invite this, if you do this kind of program, the person you invited for this will be number 1 to be here.
Yes.
He will be sitting and waiting for us to come, because he wants to say today there is no impetus. He does not feel anything. He doesn't care. Look, to accountability. Have we been able to set up very clearly?
We're so sorry. We have to cut it short now. So
let's get your final thoughts on that.
No, there's no. You can't. Sorry, we can't get any final thoughts from
we're run out of time. As usually, as the conversation gets quite interesting when time is up. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on the program. We've had Dr. Umar Bindir, former Secretary to Adamawa State Government, on the program discussing governance at the subnational level. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much.
Ezenwa Nwago, Chairman Partners for Electoral Reforms, as always. We appreciate your input into the conversation. It's been a pleasure having you all on the program. And that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Join us again tomorrow for another episode of the program. I am Jummai Yusuf.
And I am Ademola Adeye. Do have a pleasant day ahead. Thank you.
With the NTA News mobile app, the one-stop information center, real news.